Hello, my name is Rob Kinneen. I am the Outreach Director for NATIFS, North American Traditional Indigenous Food Systems. We're making a bison macaroni and cheese. So bison, vegetable oil, flour, 1% milk, macaroni, and veggies are all available in the USDA FDPIR box to make this dish. So the items that we have foraged are the sourdock and pickled fiddleheads. Fiddlehead season was happening, or it might be just the tail end of it right now. So we had some pickled, and we thought we'd kind of highlight that so that we can enjoy that taste of spring all year long. And then sourdock is a beautiful, vibrant tart green. So a real treat to use that today. And then we do actually also have some vegetable stock, and that's going to come into play. I'll show you in a little bit. For the first step of our house-made macaroni and cheese, we've got the pasta boiling, and we want to make sure that it's just kind of moving around. The water is boiling heavy, so, and it's salted like the ocean, so you've got a nice salt to it. The second step, we're going to make a bechamel. It's a milk-thickened sauce. So you can use butter or oil. The oil is from the FDPIR box, so we're going to use 2 tablespoons, which I measured in this. While that's warm, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of flour. You hear that sizzle? Everything's warming up very quickly. And what we're doing is we're creating this where basically the flour is going to be absorbed into the oil and then thicken up a little bit. And we're going to cook the rawness out of the flour. This will be a little lighter than normally, but what I found is that you make it very thick, then you add it to your macaroni and cheese, and it tends to make it really heavy. So I like to kind of keep it loose so that it's just got a little more wiggle room to play around with. But what I'm going to do is basically just kind of keep on cooking this flour, and we're going to make it what they call blonde. So you're going to have like a little color to it. If you do use butter, keep the temperature lower because it'll, it could burn a little easier because butter's got like a lower smoking heat than oil. So the best way to also, when you're making a bechamel, is you have hot roux, cold milk, or cold roux, hot milk. So what I'm doing is I'm basically making this roux in the pot, not a pan, because I'm putting 2 cups of milk into this. I'm going to get a spatula out, which I hate using more than one utensil for doing stuff like this. I use a wooden spoon. And it's getting a little sticky. So I'm kind of putting this in to just release everything from those nooks and crannies. And you can see where it's just a little darker, and if you smell, it's a little nutty. So I think we've done that. Pretty good job with that. I'm going to add the milk to it. Now what I'm going to do is there's 2 cups, and I'm going to add this incrementally because what's going to happen is it's going to shock, and the friction is going to break up the roux a little bit. But by doing that, it starts pulling everything away from the side. But if you pour all the milk in, what might happen is that you'll overwhelm the roux, and it might stick to the bottom a little bit more. So you just want to do this so that we're creating a nice viscous sauce, but also no burning. Burning is bad. And I'd say I'm probably putting in about a half a cup at a time. That's a good barometer to kind of make sure you're not overwhelming it, making sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. So if you look, our sauce is thickening up really nice. I did pull it off the heat for a second just to kind of let it absorb. I am going to run the spoon around the corner because, again, I just want to make sure there's nothing sticking on the corner. This is about thick enough to where we want it. It's got not a hard boil, but it's burbling a little bit. You've got a little bit of a bubble coming up. The edges are kind of working, and it's thick. The French term is nappé, and what that means is basically that it will coat the back of a spoon. Woo! It's hot. So again, that's kind of what we're looking for. Mission accomplished. The first thing I'm going to do is take an onion, and we have a half an onion here. So the top and the bottom has been cut off. The brown's been peeled away. It gets cut in half, top to bottom. I like to put it flat side down so we have a surface area that's strong. Because you're trying to cut an onion like that, it's not going to end well. Keep your fingers tucked in, hold the knife, and what I like to do is just kind of keep it consistent. So I'm going for a smaller piece of onion. I don't want a big thick chunk. I want them nice and thin so they'll cook down pretty quickly. And that said, the most important part is that you cut consistently. because you don't want one piece of onion being raw and the other piece being done or burnt before everything's finished. I'm going to also just really quickly take the sourdock and cut it into ribbons. So what I like to do is take it, just kind of top to bottom, keep it in a uniform style. We've got one big one on top here, and we're just kind of rolling it up. And what that does is just kind of create a consistency when you're holding it, so nothing's flinging around. Again, knuckles in, kind of work off a knuckle, and nice slices. You know, going for like 1/2 inch. I like to use the whole thing. You know, you've got the stem with chards and kales and stuff like that. I like to just cut it consistently, but then keep the stem in there as well, because like, you know, you paid it for it, you picked it, like why not use it? So we're just gonna drop this back in this bowl. We're gonna get our pan up to medium-high heat. Now I am using a cast iron pan to make this macaroni and cheese. Think about all these ingredients in here. So you don't want to have a small saute pan and have it overflowing with ingredients, right? You want to have a pan that will fit everything in it. So we're gonna let this guy just heat up for a minute. What I love about cast iron, it's got a thick gauge bottom. So when you're cooking something like a stew, for example, or a soup, or macaroni and cheese, you want there to be a thick gauge bottom on the bottom of the pan. And what that's gonna do is just get that direct heat, but distribute it over the metal pan. If you don't, you can actually just get it scorched or burned. You can do it in a heavy set pan too, but that's just gonna help, make things, keep things nice. So, we're kind of hitting like a medium-high heat. I'm gonna add the oil. It looks like a lot, but we're gonna add onions and bison to this. So oil's starting to disperse a little bit easier. We got a little sizzle going on over here. All right, you can still use a second to heat up. I'm gonna keep the heat on there relatively high, and I'm just gonna drop the onions in. So what this is it's a macaroni and cheese, but it's we're doing kind of an entree style. And what I mean by that is it's going to be a macaroni and cheese, but it's going to have vegetables and meat kind of incorporated into it. The inspiration from this actually came from growing up. When I was younger, we had moved from Petersburg, Southeast Alaska to Anchorage. And I remember like my family would go on moose hunting trips and never seemed to get anything. So as time goes on and I got older and I thought it was kind of cooler to go to the mall. Well, that year my family got 2 moose. So it felt like we ate our weight in macaroni and cheese with moose meat, which really you shouldn't be complaining about, but we had it kind of a lot. I used to serve this at a restaurant and I would caramelize onions. We don't really have a whole lot of time. I'm not gonna expect people to caramelize onions. So we're just gonna kind of toast them right here. And then when I served it at the restaurant, I would do caramelized onions, game meat, and I would finish it with a salad with balsamic vinegar on it. But that's where the sourdock comes into play, because it's got a real tartness to it. So that tartness is gonna cut through the rich cheese and the rich meat and all that. So it's a pretty fun dish with a lot going on. So we're starting to get a little color on the onions, and you can see they're just a little more pliable, which is what you're looking for. You don't want that raw bite of an onion. You want that, you want a nice sweet flavor to it. They're just getting to the point where they're starting to get a little translucent, which means they're cooking all the way through. Even starting to get a little color on there, so that's great. I'm gonna drop in the meat. I've got the bison, so I'm just gonna drop that right in and just kind of break it up. Hot pan, bison meat. It doesn't take a lot to cook it all the way through. So even though it's a little pink like that, it's gonna get cooked all the way through real quick. This is where I'm just gonna add a touch of salt and pepper. Now, as this is going on, we've got our bechamel, and I'm gonna add this right in. If this is getting away from you, just kind of knock the heat down a little bit. So you see the the bechamel is like loosening up a little bit. And what I'm gonna do is just add a little bit of vegetable stock to kind of, again, just kind of bring it up to temperature and loosen it up. And we're doing that because we're gonna add the cheese. It's obviously hot, coming through. Got everything kind of working real well. So in the FDPIR box, there is a grated, I believe it's an American cheese, and that's fine to use if that's something you need to use. But I prefer cheddar, a little sharper flavor in my macaroni and cheese. So that's kind of what we did here. Macaroni and cheese is good any way to slice it. So I say go for it. Now we've got this, you know, again, look at that. You got the nice yellow hue. You got everything kind of consolidated. And what I like is that this sauce is it's a little loose. And, you know, there's two philosophies with macaroni and cheese. You can bake it hard, but I like to make it nice and creamy like this. So we've got the onions, the bison, the cheese sauce. I'm going to add some noodles. Make sure you got that equal bite ratio situation going on. So we've got the sauce to noodle thing going the right way. I'm going to add just a touch more vegetable stock. And what that does is just kind of, it lightens it up, it loosens it up to make it nice and gooey. Not to get too technical. And then from there, we make sure everything's kind of coated. I'm turning off the heat because the residual heat from the pan is going to heat that up really well. Now to finish, I'm going to use this veg all medley. Now this has been cooked, so there's obviously you're not cooking it, but you're just kind of warming it up to fold it in and get that flavor and texture, and just make that whole complete meal. We're going to go with just a little more salt, a little more pepper. And you've got this wonderful rich macaroni and cheese. Nice little richness from onions, and you've got the rich, beautiful bison, and then all the vegetables, the creamy cheddar flavor. When we plate this up, I'm going to top it not only with the sourdock, a little bit of these fiddlehead ferns as well. So when I'm seasoning my food, a lot of times you will see salt and pepper TT or to taste. Sometimes when you're working in institutional cooking, you'll have flavors added right to it. But like in restaurants and at home, like I have salt and pepper at the ready to use it. And really at the end of the day, you just have to taste it to make sure you're getting everything from it. So sometimes, something will taste bland and people will add salt. But sometimes there's a richness like with macaroni and cheese, or to me like mashed potatoes, and you want to add not salt and pepper, but a little acid. So that's again why I'm using a little bit of sourdock to kind of cut through that richness. So macaroni and cheese is ready to rumble. We've got those rich onions, the bison, the vegetables and cheese and macaroni. And there you have it. Bison, macaroni and cheese with sourdock and pickled fiddleheads. Thanks for watching.